Hello, hello. I am so excited for this episode. It is a very special one to me and so close to my heart. It's inspired by Prince, my 18-and-a-half-year-old pupper. Yes, he'll always be a puppy in my eyes, who recently passed away. And before we get into it, I just wanted to say what a sweet, caring, adorable, funny little darling furball he was, and filled my life with so much love and fun and laughter and joy. I may be referring to him as challenging and triggering in the episode at different points, but I wanted to acknowledge that was just some of the times. But for the most part, he was just a cute little furry baby that wanted to play and get cuddles and who loved plenty of belly rubs all the way through to the very end. And he was just the sweetest little soul whom I miss so dearly. So now that we've established that, let's get into it. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Optimistic Agenda podcast. I am here in my wardrobe recording today because every time I've tried to record this, there has been some kind of interruption or another, and I am determined to get this done. So because it's raining heavily outside, I've kind of locked myself in here, and hopefully the sound quality is sufficient enough and audible enough to be heard. So let's get started. So if you have been following me on Instagram for a while, you know how I absolutely love and adore my dogs. They are my little guardian angels on this planet, and I manifested each and every one of them exactly at the right time. But maybe that's a story for a different episode for another day. So let me know if you'd want that, and I can record it. I'd be more than happy to. But about 3 weeks ago today, we lost our oldest at 18.5 years old, and it was such a blessing to have him in our lives for as long as we did. And he was poorly towards the end, but even when you know that it's coming and it's inevitable, nothing can quite prepare you for when it does come, because I haven't had my heart broken like that and feeling like it's just been wrenched out in a very long time. And it's just been a few weeks of pure heartache and just absolutely missing him and thinking of him and doing my best to honor him and his memory and keeping him alive in spirit in our hearts, in my heart, as best as I can. So, and I can't even believe it's already been 3 weeks. It was just like, it still feels like yesterday, that I was playing with him and all of that. So anyways, with all of this, I started noticing just how much he taught me. And I'm seeing it more. I've been seeing it more in his absence. So, and it's been in so many ways. And if you've been around here a while, you know how I love my lessons, because we've got a lot of those episodes already, because they're a fun, easy way of distilling life, I suppose. It's such a good way of just putting the point through and in a way that can be related back to yourself as well through examples. So these are not your run-of-the-mill love unconditionally and endlessly and forgive easily and be persistent, etc., etc. Although I don't deny those either. He taught me all of those things and then some. These are more of how did he make me a better person? In what way he made me a better person? What did I learn from all of my interactions with him? And there might be a sum, sprinkled in there that you might think, oh, okay, I've heard this before. But keep an open mind. And let's get started. So for his 18.5 years, I'm sharing the 8 lessons that my handsome little furball of a brother taught me and imparted upon me in his lifetime. They are all somewhat interconnected, and they flow into and weave within each other. So excuse any repetitions, please, that may come up. I've done my best to try and separate them for clarity's sake for this episode, but they're really, oh my gosh, it was pretty challenging trying to move them apart, like separate them. So they're pretty intertwined. So if you do get any repetitions, just bear with it and just hear me through. So, number 1, you matter and your existence matters. You're impacting so many lives just by being here. And if you weren't, there would be a giant you-sized hole in the universe. And there's so many times that we think that we are nothing, that no one is listening, no one cares, and you don't matter. And I'm here to tell you that you do. You matter. Even when you think you don't, you do. Please allow that to sink in, because if you didn't, you would not be here. You would not have taken shape or form in this world. You're here because you matter, because you're needed. And you might just not know it just yet, or how, or it might not be quite so clear yet, but you are. Trust that. Because out of, 14 billion or trillion probabilities of you existing, you appeared. This very specific version of you. Do you know that the odds of winning the lottery are higher than the chance of you being born as you in this form? Yeah. So keep being who you're being and doing what you're doing, because you never know whose lives and how many lives you're touching by being you. Throughout the episode, I'll touch on Prince, and he was triggering and he was challenging. Oh my word. Oh, he was a handful, all on his own, let alone with the other two in the mix. And in his long yet short life, he touched so many lives. In those nearly 2 decades, he's touched so many lives, even of people who used to complain about him. It's just, he's touched a lot of lives. Like, I have friends who know him, and he's touched more lives than he could have probably ever even have fathomed all on his own. More than even I realized until, the past several days and weeks of reflection, because who you are is really who you've come here to be. And why would you deny yourself that? For what? People's measly opinions that are mere projections of you to dictate your life? Come and be you. If a tiny little dog, well, he was not tiny, but he was mighty, if he could trigger others and annoy others and still be himself and be a handful and still impact people in the way that he did in 18 and a half years, what can you do in several decades of your life? We sometimes don't even fathom that. We let other things cloud us, and I've definitely been guilty of that, for sure. But how many lives can you impact? Isn't that what it's about at the end of the day anyways? And this has been at the forefront of my mind. Why am I holding myself back? Why are we holding ourselves back? There's so much we're here to do. There's so much I am here to do. So there are people who felt the loss, people I didn't think I realized that would feel the loss, that felt the loss, people who mattered. And coming back on the impact is, the people who matter are going to feel your impact. They're going to be impacted by you. So you keep being you. Okay? All right. Number 2, people won't be around forever. Appreciate them now. We think that they're going to be here forever. Our ego makes us think that they will. The ego makes us think that they will be around forever. Whether that's our parents, our siblings, our family members, our friends, our children, our dogs, our pets. We think that they will be around forever, because that is how our ego needs to operate to help us survive. Because if we were constantly thinking about, oh my God, what if they're not here tomorrow? What if they're not here tomorrow? Oh my gosh, I really just don't know. It would drive us batshit crazy. So it kind of wants to bring this back to this sense of presence. hyper presence, because once we start taking people and things for granted, we don't appreciate them. Or we're constantly stuck in this narrative or loophole of worry, which is not doing anything for us either. So there's this principle of taking things or people for granted that I don't know where I come across this initially or when, because it's been a while, but I had to just do a little bit of searching just to confirm my facts that led me to the closest thing, which was one of the laws in the book, The 48 Laws of Power. I haven't personally read it yet, but it speaks of increasing absence as readily available things and people are often taken for granted. So basically, the more time that you spend with a person or thing, that value diminishes and we almost start taking them for granted. And a really simple exercise that might sound really gory, which is in contrast to what I've said, but bear with me. When you listen to it, if this is the first time, or it might not sound gory, or it might not be the first time that you've heard this. I started doing this quite a long time ago, actually. And I thought it was just me and that there was something wrong with me. Until I realized, until I heard Gary Vaynerchuk, or Gary V, talking about it. And that made me think and realize, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. And it keeps you appreciating all the things and people in your life. And I don't know if this is some sort of trauma response, but whatever it is, it served me pretty well in truly appreciating fully and being present with the people around me. So the exercise is imagining my life without that person in my life and them not existing, which is going to happen one day. Let's be honest. But it really brings it back, like right back into perspective, because we take all of these beautiful people for granted in our lives so many times. So it's just imagining, like, if there's someone particularly getting on my nerves or annoying me and really just doing my head in, I'll just take, or whatever the case is, I will take some time and think about how would my life be without this person in it? How would it be if they just weren't there anymore all of a sudden? How would I feel? And that kind of brings me full circle back into, oh my gosh, you know what? All of these are small things. Like, they don't even matter in the grander scheme of things. And that allows, it also works in allowing me to really not only appreciating them, but also seeing like the bigger picture of figuring out, you know what? This is a small thing. Like, it just does not matter. It's fine. Let it be. We'll move on. We'll make peace. And it just, teaches me to accept them as they are for who they are as well, which I think I'm jumping ahead, but yeah. And, usually there's always something more important. And whether that's I'm going out with my friends, or I'm busy, or I have to do my work, right? Not right now, later, wait. How many times do we use those excuses? And they're truly just that, excuses, most of the times, to get out of things, to get out of commitments, instead of being present with those people and dealing with the situation that we need to deal with, having a difficult conversation, sitting someone down. There are nuances, don't get me wrong, but that's not what we're diving into here right now, and that is not the purpose of this. And it's, again, focusing on what is the bigger picture. Is this going to matter? And it's really just taking the time to appreciate them, recognizing that, letting them know that. Literally, letting them know. How many times have you done that? We just assume people are going to know, and they're going to be able to read our minds. But what if you could actually be telling them and making it known explicitly? Recognizing the fact that they're not always going to be there, and you truly never know when the last time is going to be. You really do not want to think back and be like, oh my gosh, if only I'd known this was the last time, I would have done it differently. And sometimes it's dark to think that way, but it brings me back to a place of truly savoring every single moment. And really always making sure that the interaction before parting ways is making it known that I love and appreciate them. And even with Prince, it was every morning, every night. Good morning, good night, you know? There was no interaction that ever left me feeling, and I do this with pretty much most people. I will never leave it thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I'd done something differently. So really just be present and make it known. Savor and truly milk those interactions. And moving on to lesson number 3. This one ties in with the previous one. And I had a hard time separating them. But be very present. Be hyper present. Because once that person isn't there anymore, once the situation changes, anything changes, once the time passes and you're looking back, you will wish you were more present, that you were a bit more focused on them or their beingness and their their presence. Stop just ignoring people, right? Like, if you don't want to listen, communicate that. And we're talking about loved ones here, so that's a moot point. But just be present. Put the phone away. You know? Like, really tune in and listen. When you're hugging them, really take it all in. Take everything in. Work with all 5 of your senses. What do they look like? Really focus in on all the details. Breathe them in. Really feel into their touch. How do they feel? How does their hair feel? Or their fur feel, right? How does their skin feel? What's their temperature? What's the texture? How soft or not soft is it? How warm or cold are they? Really get tuned in every single time. And because I used to do that, once you start doing that, you start becoming present. I started being present. Could I have been more present? That's what I keep telling myself, yes. But it's also a reminder that I am trying my best. I always tried and did my best. If I'm ever going anywhere, if I'm with you, I am fully present. I am fully focused. I am not on my phone. It annoys me. It's really a pet peeve when everyone's like, I'm talking to you, mate. Stop being on your phone. All right? I digress. But just like when we lost him that morning, and I didn't get to say goodbye, and I think I jumped ahead of myself when I say this, but I didn't get to say goodbye to him in the morning. I just saw him for a few seconds when he'd, like just when he was with my dad. But I didn't get to say hi or good morning. Like I always used to do that first thing in the morning, last thing at night, before I sleep. Good night. I love you. Give him a nice, tight, big hug. Whoever it is that in your life that you cherish, kiss them good night. Give them a nice, tight hug. Tell them you love them. And honestly, I don't feel bad. I don't feel badly that I could have or should have done something or another. That could have been, done something differently. Because I was so present with him every single time. I took time with each interaction to love on him a little bit more and take him all in, especially at night. So really take the time to be present, cherish your loved ones, because one day you will wish that you had. All right, number 4. How are you doing so far? Meet them, people, whoever them is, where they're at. Even meeting your pets, I'm not just referring to people, by the way. Prince was unique and he was very different. He had a personality and he was fierce and feisty, and ultimately what he taught me, which again, I'm very, very grateful that I learned these lessons very early on and I was present. But even when it was challenging, it would take sometimes all of me to not shout at him or project out my irritation onto him. It's so easy to do, right? Like I relate to parents so much. Shout at the kids because they're not listening and doing what I want them to do. I don't have kids, but not that it's legal to do so in most places as well, but Indian upbringing traditionally, it's just like smack or whack them or something, or just get angry at them, because you just can't do any of that because there's frustration built up. Even with people, not necessarily with children, you know, like how many times have you just looked at someone and just like, oh my gosh, just wish I could smack some sense into you, right? But I can imagine children are especially challenging at certain ages. But just meet people where they're at, instead of measuring them up against who you are and where you would like them to be. Learning to accept someone radically, just fully and blatantly for who they are, is such a gift, because you take away the power of having that judgment around losing your mind of, oh my gosh, they're not doing the things that I want them to do, or they're not doing the things that I'm telling them to do, or they're not being the way like I'm, you know, they should be like this. How many times do we just should all over people? But when you accept them, you're meeting them where they are. And you start noticing the beauty of it. You start seeing the beauty. Beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. So meet them where they're at. Number 5, accept them for who they are. Again, this is kind of intertwined. But who are they? Who are they showing you that they are? Stop trying to change them. Why don't you instead accept them? Let them be who they are. Meet them where they're at. These two go hand in hand. We try so hard, so hard to change people, to make them do the things that we want to do, to make them believe the things that we want to believe or we do believe. We're almost essentially trying to make them who we are, or a version that we wish they would be, that we wish that they would be, not who they actually are. So instead, why don't we just accept them for who they are? Because this is who they are. Like, I know I sound repetitive, but like, it's truly. And this is who he was. He was challenging. He was a handful. And I just had to meet him where he was at and play to his strengths. Play to people's strengths. Play to their strengths. Quite literally. Like, it's the most simplest thing to do. It's one of the most selfless things you can do. Play to people's strengths. Stop setting yourself and them, or does it make sense? Stop setting them and yourself up for failure. It's disappointing on both ends, because it's so easy for us to not look at ourselves and to not look at ourselves in the mirror and to not point the fingers back at ourselves, right? Not to address our own things, but it's easy to project out and point fingers at others, completely blind to our own shortcomings. I know so many people like that. Constantly making it your problem. Making it you problem, even when it's not. That doesn't feel very nice. And 99% of the times it's not. It's not a them. It's a them problem. It's not a you problem. So it's so much easier. We project our own things onto them. And he was, especially to people. There are some people who are very triggering. He was pretty triggering if you met him. Even to me. Like, there would be times I'm just like, oh my God, just stop. Listen to me. But once we see and once we decide to look inwards, to see that person for who they are, and to accept them for who they are, and to play to their strengths, oh my God, they are beautiful. They teach you so many lessons, without which this episode would not have been here. And I wouldn't be recording it. So, yeah. All right, moving on. Number 6, we're almost there. Practicing patience instead of projecting onto others. Again, very, very closely tied in with number 5. Prince was triggering, as I've said already. And testing of patience at the best of times, sometimes. It was so easy. It would have been so easy to project my anger out at him or unleash it. It was sometimes, gosh. And more so when he would keep barking, but we just didn't know what he wanted because nothing would make him quiet. And these are the times that it's so, so easy to lose your cool and to just lose it. And these were the times I had to dig deeper in to approach him and meet him with empathy and kindness and patience. It took every ounce of my, at times, strength, but I was happy to do it. And it made me better with people as well. And these are the times, like this is, if you're listening to this, that means you're already in the personal development world. You're very open to working with yourself and working on yourself and looking at all these things. So anytime you come across someone, those are chances to go to dig deeper. Anytime you come across these sorts of challenges, those are just indications of like, where can I, dig deeper? That's where all of the work, the personal development comes into action, into play, is during these times. Like, where are you being tested? Where are other people testing your limits? Yes, there are boundaries, but there's also upholding and upholding the boundaries, but also I suppose really just digging your heels in to what's just not worth it. So yeah. Lesson number 7. You are not for everyone. You're not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. Because the people who matter don't mind, and the people who mind don't matter so much. So it doesn't even matter. We're always, as humans, so worried about being liked and fitting into these boxes and all of that. I'm definitely guilty of that. And Prince just reminded me of just be you. Because you are so special the way you are. Stop diminishing that and stop dulling it down. Stop dulling your shine, because you do have a shine. You don't know how many people or who you're impacting with that. You've come here. Go back to lesson number 1 and re-listen to it. Is there always room for improvement? Of course, always. We are soul beings. We are humans. We are spiritual beings. We're spirit in a body having this human experience. And our whole purpose is growth and evolution. And always needing always increasing our frequency and learning these lessons. So it's an evolution. It's a growth process. It's a process. But the essence of you is who you are. And we've all come with our own lessons and challenges and things to evolve through in this lifetime. And I think denying ourselves that, denying who we are, is a massive disservice to us. And not only to ourselves, but also to the others around us. To others who are here to be impacted by us. You don't need to have a business to be able to do that. People around you are still feeling it. So keep being who you're being. You're not going to be for everybody. And one of my favorite quotes is, you could be the juiciest, ripest peach in the world, and there's still going to be someone who doesn't like peaches. We just cannot. There's 8 billion plus of us on this planet, and it's only going to grow, apparently. And just like all 5 fingers on our hand are not the same, we are the same as humans as well. We cannot all be the same. We are not all the same. We are all so vastly, vastly, vastly different from each other. And I think that is exactly what makes us so unique and so special. Even in the animal world, we think it's just us humans. But even in the animal world, they all have their own cute, quirky, different little personalities, and they don't judge each other. They just won't be around each other around the other person if they don't like them or get along with them, So, number 8, that's the final one. Some of the most irritating quirks, someone's quirks that might be, annoying to you sometimes, will be the same ones that you miss and cherish the most. Prince had this, and I don't know if it's incredible, but I miss it terribly. And I knew I'd miss it. And I would also tell my mom, don't shout at him. This is exactly what you're going to miss about him. He was rather demanding in a nice way. sometimes not in a nice way, but he was very like, he would speak with us, just like with his little barky voice and have conversations. If you have dogs, you're going to understand this. If you don't have dogs, please try to understand. It's a real thing. So where he would hold a conversation, he would speak with us, and he would ask us for what he wanted and when he wanted it. He loved food. He loved food so terribly much that he was a constantly hungry puppy like me. Well, just like me, although I'm not a puppy, I'm a human. But hopefully you got the point. He was hungry all the time, and he wanted his food when he wanted his food, and he would bark and make noise to demand for it. And every single time my mom would walk through the door in the evenings, he would start calling her. Call me, here I am, and give me food. It's time for his treats. So he's asking for his treats. And anytime my mom would be sleeping, he'd wake her up, or wakes me up, or someone up. And I can relate. Sometimes it was very annoying. Oh, sometimes it was so annoying, especially when you don't know what he wants or why he's doing it, because he just keeps going on and on and on, even though you've given him everything. And he's just crying and barking and making noise. And I'm not going to obviously demonstrate how for the purpose of this episode. So you can just use your imagination. And he had a very distinct bark as well. But now that he's gone, the house is so quiet. It's so quiet. And that's one of the things I definitely miss the most. Anytime any of us got home, he calls out. Mom's home, he calls out. Dad's home, he calls out. He wants food, time for his treats. He's complaining about not getting his food. He calls out. The other two, Theo and Charlie, well, they're really quiet. I could not give them food. Not that I do that, but I could not give them food for the whole day, and they wouldn't say anything. They'll just look at me with those cute little sad puppy eyes. But Prince used to call out, and he filled that space. So don't underestimate those quirks. Don't brush them off just because they're triggering you. You will miss them. You will. And if they're triggering you, I'd look into what about that is triggering in you, because that is a shadow aspect to deal with most of the times. So identify what is triggering you about that. Go and deal with it. And I always say tapping is a wonderful resource. All of those quirks are the things that you are going to miss the most. So laugh them off. And have a little tiny bonus lesson. Number 8.5 is to inject humor. Prince was really testing it of patience at times. But honestly, once I started working on myself, being present, doing the things that I have shared above, I tried one thing as an experiment that somehow stuck, and I injected humor into it. So instead of getting frustrated by him making the noise and barking, I played with him. I spoke with him. I made noise with him. I'd take him outside. I'd fluff him, or simply just laugh and determine what he wanted. And this took all the seriousness out and made it all so much more fun and enjoyable, more than it would have otherwise been. And I'm pretty sure it lightened him up as well. Because when, again, if you're a dog owner, or have pets, like, how quirky they are, and when they're laughing, you'll just kind of know, because, they show it. And he would just be laughing and playing with me and having fun, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So those are all of them. I hope you got something out of that. I'd love to know which one landed for you the most. So take a screenshot, share this on Instagram, and don't forget to tag me on @theoptimisticagenda on there. And just to sum these lessons up here is, number 1, you matter and your existence matters. Number 2, people won't be around forever, so appreciate them right now. Number 3, be very present. 4, meet people where they're at, or even pets. Number 5, accept them for who they are. 6, practice patience instead of projecting onto others. 7, you are not for everyone, and that is okay. Number 8, your loved ones' quirks that annoyed you the most will often be the ones that you miss and cherish the most. And 8.5 is to inject humor. I guess you could call it 9, but I wanted it to be 8.5. So it's a half. It's a bonus lesson. Inject the humor. All right. See you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Optimistic Agenda podcast. If you loved what you heard, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. I would love for us to stay connected, and I'm always excited to hear your thoughts. Find me on Instagram at The Optimistic Agenda, where I also share more inspiration and behind the scenes moments. If today's conversation resonated with you, please do me a favor. Share it with your friends. Your support helps us spread the message and the good juju to more listeners. And if you could take a moment to leave a quick 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. It's like a virtual high five. Remember, you are so much more powerful than you were made to believe. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.